Oh, you thought I was gone.
Wrong.
No, just taking a little chill break. This is a FiiO FD3. It's a single dynamic driver, 12mm, like the FD5. There's a lot of FD5 talk in this video because there's a lot of things that are similar about these two sets. I'll say right off the bat that I think that the FD3 is a better set for my library than the FD5. And you're saying, well, the FD5 is the flagship. How can that be? Please. The U12T by 64 Audio over time has come to be probably the most popular set that they've released. It's not remotely close to its most expensive. I name 64 Audio because I consider their customer service to be probably the best in the business, period. So I can bring them up without sounding like I'm shading on them because I actually like them very much. So the U12T is not the most expensive set. The Unique Melody MEST is my favorite Unique Melody set. It's not remotely close to the most expensive set. They've got a few others that are more expensive than it. Companies decide prices and throw in extra cables and do other things. That doesn't mean that's going to be received by the community as being the best. I think that the FD3, for my taste and my library, sounds like a better FD5. But the tuning is, if you're looking at this right here, you're noticing that this is unit variation is bigger than this, and also left-right channel matching can sometimes be something that is close to what you're looking at, a little bit aside from right here, which is past 10K. But prior to that, this is a set that looks almost like a left-right difference. It's that close in tuning to the flagship FD5, and it actually goes further than that, and this is relevant to why I'm going to say I like this set better. So let's take a look at this because this is important for you to know if you're not aware already. This is the advertisement by FiiO themselves. This is both from FiiO's website. This is a 12mm set, 12mm set, 1.5 Tesla, 1.5 Tesla. DLC diaphragm. This is Beryllium and DLC right here. Front acoustic prism. Front acoustic prism. So we're basically taking the same exact driver and the same exact configuration in the front side with switchable nozzles. I'll mention that. And the only difference being is Beryllium, but where that would show itself as being beneficial doesn't actually in the replay of my library. I'm not seeing it. It's got a semi-acoustic, semi-open acoustic design. It's actually called the same thing on the FD5. The difference is I think there's a little bit more breathability, which is part of the reason that I think I like the FD3 better. It's got enough so that you don't get driver flex, but not enough so it sounds like it's losing a little bit of impact. Interchangeable not sound tubes, again FD5 right here. It's got the same thing. These are essentially the same sets, except the cap on this is made out of metal. It's a heavier set. The cap on this is made out of plastic, while the body barrel is made out of metal. The tuning again, so these are very, very similar according to the info by FiiO on their own site. The acoustic prism, whatever that's supposed to do, it's on both of these sets. Now we take a look at the frequency graph. The benefit of Beryllium is supposed to be, and sometimes is, that it stiffens the driver to a point where low frequency events that are substantial will not diminish the quality of what follows that region, which is the sub-bass and the mid-bass. Vocals, basically everything can be destroyed if there's too much distortion or just the quality of the low frequency hits because of the driver's performance is not ideal. It makes everything else sound poor. When you have a hybrid or a tribrid, you've got other physical drivers to take care of this and pick up where this is falling apart. But with the single dynamic driver, this is doing everything. Remember, 1 hertz is a extension of the diaphragm, a retraction after it's extended, and then a return to its original position. It's a 3-step thing, and that is basically what a hertz is. One of those in a second equals a single hertz. When dynamic drivers are moving more slowly, they're more prone to having issues with their performance. So the low hits, 1, are more unstable, and 2, impact the rest of the replay. Beryllium should actually be audible or noticeable benefit, and yet it's not. Listening to Big Boy Kill Jill, which has got a triple drop and then a low drone, then a actual 4-string bass guitar comes in. This sounds more substantial than the FD5, and I've got to think that that's maybe related to how much air the drivers are getting. Maybe this is getting a slightly less because the opening, I don't know if the opening is actually the size of the screen on the FD5, but it always sounded like that was a little bit too much openness for me. You take, planar headphones or other things and you cover and take your hands off, you notice that the bass decreases when you allow more access to the driver via more air and breathability. So I think the FD5 might be suffering a little bit from that, because Big Boy sounds more potent and powerful than the FD5 on the FD3, but it's not diminishing anything that follows as is replayed in tracks that I listen to later. Where both of these sets are not ideal, the FD5 and the FD3, or not top-notch performance, is something like Sweet Leaf, where you've got the very fast pace guitar string pulls, you've got a drummer and a bassist battling at the same time, they're in around the same zone of the frequency response, and at the same time in the track there's masking, blurring, smearing, there's stuff that can go on that can literally put them together in one blob in your ear's mind, like the visualization that you're getting of the virtual stage sounds like they're being pushed together. On both of these sets, the FD5 and the FD3, that's not really taking place. The pulls are audible clearly, the release, the decay, because they're very, very fast, they've got to resolve very quickly, are not ideal on either of these sets. They're not top-notch, but they sound good. And I think that the expectation for me was that the FD5 was going to do better than the FD3. That didn't turn out to actually be the case, and that's when it started to dawn on me that maybe they're like a lot of companies and they're charging more for one set, but it's not actually, remember, library is everything. It's not playing out with my library. Can't Find My Way Home, the guitar that comes in at the beginning, the substantial cymbal strikes by Ginger Baker, particularly at 27 seconds and 38 seconds of this track right here, track number 3, perfect. Sounded very nice on this set. By this time, a certain bias is coming with the FD5, and I thought it sounded fine on that as well. But again, that's $299, and this is $130, and there's really no difference. And if there is, I'm thinking it's the FD3 that's sounding better on everything. The Beryllium should have shown itself here with the bass pulls and releases, yet it didn't. And I thought that it sounded overall better on the more affordable set. Listening to something like Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits, which it's really a mid-bass check, because if there's too much mid-bass, it's going to give the perception that the bassist is too far forward, and that on the graph, lifting up the mid-bass, you're lifting up part of the 4-string bass guitar, and you're also lifting part of the fundamentals of a male vocalist, Mark Knopfler, and it literally makes them sound like they're close together. I guess it's like a separation check is what I'm doing, because the drum and the bass is getting space between them, and me being able to discern and appreciate and enjoy both of them at the same time, going at the same time, is kind of like Mark's vocals versus the bassist. He's supposed to be substantial, but he's not supposed to be overwhelming the vocalist. That's literally kind of mid-bass tuning. I thought that this set did that well. I thought that FD5 did it well. There was no problem between the two sets here. I thought that the FD5 would do better with the Sweet Leaf, yet it didn't. Elton John from Captain Fantastic, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, dun dun dun, psh. Repeated cymbal strikes, lots of drum play. Elton John's vocals, I thought they sounded quite good on this set, actually. I found this probably to be the most appealing. All of these are Flax or DSD. I thought that this probably, also Philadelphia for Freedom, Jan, 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 woo-doo, woo-doo. I don't know if that's a flute or what that is in the background, but it sounded great. I was enjoying myself probably right here the most, Elton John. Grateful Dead Ripple. Dun, 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 dun. Again, acoustic guitar. I'd like to have some kind of a edge, and it actually sounded like it had it. I thought Fleetwood Mac, Can't Find My Way Home, which is a simple track, but that's good for my brain to focus on. It's basically Lindsey Buckingham sitting on a stool, playing an acoustic guitar, Stevie Nicks standing next to him, and singing. It's very simple. It's like a Jim Croce track plus a female singer. I can listen to and focus on Stevie, her throaty, male-ish kind of voice. She's got a kind of like that husk to it for a female singer. Get maybe in the way or blend in a little bit with Lindsey. Not at all. She sounded great. Lindsey sounded great. The guitar play on Can't Find My Way Home sounded excellent. I also listened to Landslide, and I thought that sounded dope. It's a very good dynamic driver. For $130, it's a very good option. Is it best in its class? No. It's not best in its class, but I think it's notable that it's better to my ears, to my library, than the Flagship by the same company. So guitars sounded great. I thought that Jimi Hendrix sounded good. Guitar solos didn't sound overemphasized. There was nothing that I listened to that I thought, oh, that'll be a problem. Nothing. It all sounded pretty good to actually quite good. And again, we're looking at a frequency graph of the two sets. A lot of people say that stuff that exists past the resonance peak around 8K is, take it with a grain of salt. If we go with that logic, which I agree with, everything prior to that is quite close with a little bit more emphasis on the sub bass. But again, the variation between the two is very similar to, you know, channel imbalance. Like this is what it might look like, or unit variation might be more than this. So they're very, very close. The tonality and the presentation is good. I think that this FD3 is the better set than the FD5. And people say, oh, it's crazy. Companies don't do that. Again, U12T is a good example. The MEST is a good example. And people can chime in below and talk about a set that's B+ tier by the company, but not their flagship, but they like it better and they paid for both of them. Like that happens all the time. Companies guess, plus they put it in nicer packaging and add better accessories. And sometimes it is a better set, the most expensive one. It seems often enough to me that it's not really something. Money doesn't buy you sound quality. I never thought it did, but the more that I'm playing this hobby, the more I'm convinced of it. And I'm looking at a set right now that if someone said, I'll give you the FD5 or the FD3, and I can't flip it and make money off it, because of course I grab the FD5 because I make more money. For my own personal joy, I would take this set. It's pretty good. The disappointing thing, if at all anything is disappointing, and this is not related, but I gotta mention it, if this is the B level by intention, and you tuned it pretty much identical to the Flagship, I don't know what the point of that is actually. But you could, I guess it's a known quantity. You can say, hey, if you like the FD5, I found it to be a little bit heavy and it fell out of ear, or it was a little bit open and you were missing a little bit of bass that you were expecting, the FD3 would be the better option. And it's more affordable. So in that way, it's appealing. I don't know if this was done intentionally, though. But I guess when you take the same driver and using basically the same stuff with a slightly different ventilation style, it's going to probably come out pretty close to the same thing. And that's what happened here. Low frequency plays back good, plays back better than this. It should sound better on Beryllium, but it doesn't. Sounds better on this set. Stuff that exists in the mids, a lot of the vocals, the drum play, stuff that exists up in the upper mids to treble, cymbal strikes, and the way that they sound. Prominent strikes from Ginger Baker, 2738 on Can't Find My Way Home, sounded great on this set. Sounded probably close to about the same on the FD5. Overall, I would take the FD3. Do I wreck it? I got to compare it to some other stuff because there's a lot of things coming out that I'm aware of and you might not be. So I'll compare, but I can say today that I think this is better than their Flagship. I'll leave it at that. Using my library, this is a better set. I would take this. Remember, I was a big fan of the, was it the FD1 or the FH1? The one that was like a plastic peanut and fit in your ear great, and it was low, had big low frequency, and it came in green. I remember that. I like that set. It wasn't a resolution killer, but I just love the fun of that set. And both of these are better technically than that set, but you got to know what my preferences are. MEST, Shure EJ07, Elysian X. That's the kind of stuff I like. HE6se with the open mod. The Solaris X by Astel and Kern. No, I'm not even doing a video for that. $2,000, yo. Money doesn't buy you a lot of stuff, and sound quality is one of those things. And I'm out.
Wrong, wrong.